Well, England at the start of the day would have had high hopes of chasing down the runs they required. That evaporated in the heat and the dust here in Multan, and it happened quickly.
There was always a chance on that pitch,
Yeah.
day 9 pitch with this heat baking down on it. It changed around about day 2 of this match. Even when Duckett was going through that fabulous 100, there were deliveries that he played that were bouncing up and hitting him on the shoulder. And it was only almost hidden by the fact that Duckett played so well. Since then, spinners absolutely dominated. And today, once they lost 1 or 2, you could see starting against that ball, spinning and bouncing was always going to be very hard work.
I mean, it's worked for Pakistan. They've selected differently, they've changed tactics, they kept the same pitch, and credit to them for levelling the series. It isn't something, though, that's going to take Pakistan cricket forward, this format, is it?
No, but it's something that is needed. I mean, this week has been a very good week for Pakistan cricket. It's the first test that Shah Massood has won as captain. It's the first test they've won in 7. It's the first test they've won at home a long time. It's the first day they've played, I think, at a weekend here. Fridays are weekends in this part of the world. And actually, I know over our shoulders there's not many in, but in front of us there's a few in. Because it's a weekend, because it's a winning side, because there's something in the pitch. You cannot tell me that last week was better viewing than this week. You cannot tell me if you're a local in this part of the world, you're going to come in on 40-degree heat and watch 560 play 800. You're going to come in and watch your side play and win and a pitch that offers something. Now, this cannot be the template for future cricket in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Keep playing on the same surface. But they do need to look at their surfaces. And if they find a winning formula, stick with it. Stick with this squad, stick with these 2 spinners, stick with the batting lineup, stick with the selectors, the captain, and everything. Have some kind of consistency. Go to Rawalpindi and try and prepare the same pitch. Try and prepare that one that turns. Pakistan cricket, and I reckon Test match cricket, needed this week more than last week.
Incredibly watchable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, very. 2 things that really get me excited about cricket is pace bowling. You know, I grew up watching Michael Holding and that West Indies attack running in and batters jumping all over the place, or Atherton facing Courtney Walsh or Alan Donald, or spin. Quality spin. Mumtaz and Shane Warne spinning it both ways. Spin here, spin in India. If a pitch does something, and as you look at those scores as well, they diminished all the way through. It was a very, very important toss to win, for obvious reasons. If you're starting on day 6, there's not many captains, even me, who's going to say we'll have a bowl on here. So it was a crucial toss to win, but their spinners out-bowled our spinners, their batters played spin better than our batters played spin. It was a big week for Shah Massood. He captained in the second half. Once they got worked out, the Duckett, I thought Nouman Ali started to bowl slower second time round. So, yeah, it was much, much more watchable this week.
Well, the end happened very quickly. England, of course, 2 down overnight. Did you expect England to put a better fist of it today?
Well, I thought that we'd be here after lunch. England, you know, live by the sword, die by the sword. They were never going to try and grind out a score. The more it does, the more shots they play. I mean, that was a bit farcical, but, you know, Ben has that spray that he wears in his gloves. Maybe he needed a bit more of it. And once you get lower order and tail-enders batting against this quality spin, you're always struggling.
8 for 46, Nouman Ali. Remarkable figures.
Yeah, again, you know, I've been here before when Abrar Ahmed has got 7 wickets, and Abrar's cricket has sort of diminished and faded away, as we saw in the first Test match, because he's been given pitches that he can't bowl on. So this is my point. We'll come here now, be really excited. These fans in front of us will be really excited, but they need a surface to bowl on. Yeah. We talk about it being soul-destroying for quicker bowlers on this surface, or last week. For spinners, it did not spin. Even day 5, it didn't spin. So if you've got 2 quality spinners, which they all obviously have, then give them a surface to bowl on. Some will say the fact that they won justifies that team selection. I don't agree with that at all. Because if it's not spinning, if you're playing 3, you don't need 7. Your 5th spinner is not going to suddenly do something magical that the 3rd one isn't doing. And if it is spinning, you don't need more than 2. And they didn't need more than 2. They never went to their 3rd. They never went to Mahmood, the leg spinner, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. So I think you still need a balanced side. And also, if you do go with 7 spinners, you must win that toss. And they did win that toss.
He doesn't seem to trust the leg spinner, Shah, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Or did he just not need him?
No, he just knew that these 2 bowlers were quality spinners, and they never looked tired, and they had full of energy. They're so different. Calm Nouman Ali with flight and guile. I described him a bit of Bishambedi in there. Old-fashioned left-arm spinner, dropped the ball that got Crawley, and very calm. And the other end, Sajid, much quicker, much more at you, and the opposite of calm. Fiery, great celebrations, enjoying his cricket, loving every moment of being a Test match cricketer.
His was the key performance, was it, for you in terms of setting up this win?
Well, they're going to have to debate who's the player of the match, and obviously between those two, I think the fact that he got 7 in the first innings, Nouman got 8 in the second, but it was when it was doing more. I think the fact that he bowled out England in the first innings and got 7 for probably just tips it for me, but it'd be very difficult to choose between the two.
Where does he improve?
I think he needs to work out bowling round the wicket. He went in the first innings round the wicket, and he couldn't quite get his length right, because length is on an angle, do the maths really, but when you go on an angle you have to be a bit fuller, and he got it too full. And then second time round there were a lot of deliveries that were hitting in line but going down the leg side, or hitting outside the line and hitting the stumps, and the change of angle means you can get both into play. You can bring LBW into play. So again, it's a learning curve. Even if you have 9 wickets in the match, how am I going to improve? I'm going to learn to go round the wicket and bring it. Nathan Lyon does it a lot, doesn't he? You did that masterclass with him. Nathan Lyon comes round the wicket. Graham Swan did it. When it's spinning like this, you do need that change of angle.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Other than being late, how are you?
Well, I was on commentary. I had to pass on the lead commentary to Bazid and
Thankfully.
Urooj. I felt there should have been a Pakistan voice on at the end. It's a big moment for Pakistan, really. A proud nation that have been without a win for a long, long time. So well done to them. Their gamble well and truly paid off, didn't it? All in. They put their chips all in on spin, and the spinners shared those 20 wickets.
As Nasser was saying, it's one win. It's on a very particular surface, and a very particular squad side was selected. What will it do, though, just to raise
Well, it will lift
bit?
cricket here, certainly lift this team, and lift Shan Masood, who, as a captain, was on a losing streak of 6 Test matches, and that's not a good start for any Test match captain. And they tend to not show that much patience with their captains here in Pakistan, so that buys him a little bit of time, probably buys the selectors a bit of time. And whether you can replicate these conditions in Rawalpindi is going to be fascinating, because, well, A, we're not going to be playing on a used pitch, one imagines. Just speaking to Bazid Khan, who knows Rawalpindi well, he doesn't think you'll be able to replicate that. So I would imagine they'll certainly have to play one more seamer in place of the leg spinner, but certainly they'll probably hope to play Nouman Ali and Sajid Khan there as well.
But not just that, sorry, not just that one-off test. I know we're focusing on it because England have got 1 game left and the series is 1-1. Do you not think Test cricket in this part of the world does need a bit more in their pitches? Do you not think?
Definitely. But how you get that, I don't know. I mean, you're not going to be able to play every pitch on a pitch that's just had 5 days traffic on it. You know, this was effectively a 9th-day surface. So how you do that, I don't know. Whether you just dig them all up and start again, I have no idea. But I think we both agree that although England lost this game, it was a much more watchable Test match with the bowlers in the game. You know, the first Test match was a wonderful win for England, and the records that tumbled and the personal milestones that came Root and Brooks' way. But I think cricket is better when the bowlers are in the game, and they were certainly in the game here.
Baz would also say they should start playing a Test match at Rawalpindi now, just amongst the squad members, and then join in on day 6 or whatever.
Maybe we can go and have a bat on it first.
Oh, gosh, no one wants to see that. What of England today? I mean, just a bridge too far, it was spinning too much.
Well, they had a 20%, 10% chance at the start of play. The odds were all in Pakistan's favour. England's approach is a very different approach from the one we would have taken back in the day. But, you know, they win more games than they lose. And that's the way they choose to go about it. Now, I think there were some bad options taken. Look at Crawley's shot yesterday evening, charging down to Nouman Ali and missing. Ollie Pope in particular, I thought that was a poor shot this morning, because he was out driving to Sajid Khan in the first innings and he was suckered into a drive through the offside again in the second. I don't think you can be too critical of the sweeps, because that's their method and mode of playing. And you know, if I was batting on that pitch, a sweep would be an integral part of run scoring there for me as well. So, but I think there were 1 or 2 bad options taken, but essentially a bridge too far on the final day here.
Pope was captain in the first Test in the absence of Ben Stokes. Are there questions being raised a little bit about his position?
There always is with Ollie Pope,
Yeah,
because
I know.
he is either feast or famine. And you have to look at the summer. It was only 3 tests ago that he got 100,
Yeah.
but before that he didn't get many. And then you go back to India and he had a magnificent 190, and then he didn't get many after that. And that's what he's got to try and work out, is that slight level of consistency, to be honest, that because he's so frenetic and so jabby. I think that's a real danger on spinning pitches, to be jabby. You look at Root and how soft he is with the hands and how he lets the ball come at him. That first innings dismissal was hard hands. The moment you go hard with your hands, you leave a gap between bat and pad. Or like today, you go hard with your hands and it just grips and you give a caught and bowl chance. So he's got to look at a level of consistency that's lacking at the moment.
The other thing that might be lacking with England at the moment is their quality of catching. They dropped a few in the first game, and they dropped 2 crucial ones yesterday after Salman Ali
There were 2
Agha.
vital ones yesterday. The game was well in the balance
Yeah.
then. I think Pakistan's lead, when Jamie Smith dropped the first of these catches, was 197 at this point. And then obviously 2 balls later, Root drops another catch and the lead was 199 at that point. Now, the game is well within England's grasp at that stage. So these were 2 vital catches. Root is standing very close. He's got a helmet on. That's slight mitigation, but Jamie Smith is going to take that catch 10 times out of 10 in normal circumstances.
Ben, thank you for joining us. What did you reckon about today then? How did you see it?
Yeah, well, obviously it's going to be a massive task for us because of how much was going on out on the wicket. But we knew that chasing the total down, we knew we had to go out there with a method as individuals and as a batting unit. And I think if you look at the guys who had success throughout this test match, it was the ones who was looking to put the spin under pressure by, basically getting your broom out. A lot of reverse sweeps, a lot of sweeps, because that just negates any
Keeping
spin.
your broom in your hand as well when you play.
Yeah, next time I'm doing a bit of sweeping up, I'll remember to do that. But look, it was incredibly tough conditions to try and, just eke that out. You just always felt like there was one ball with your name on it. Especially I was stood at slip when we were bowling, and, as soon as batters were looking to defend the ball, you felt massively in the game. So for us, it was about chasing that total down, not eking it out, because, again, everyone who's had success this week from our side and Pakistan's sides were the one who were looking to put the spinners under pressure.
You don't make excuses, I know that, but nonetheless, how important was the toss?
Yeah, look, it was always going to be a big toss, knowing that we turned up here on a day 6 pitch before a ball had been bowled. But we felt like we were still in the game when we came to chase that down. I thought you got to give credit to Pakistan with the way in which they put a good score on the board, and then obviously Ben Duckett's first 100 was just incredible, and then we lost some quick wickets on the end of day 2, where that's where I thought the pitch started reacting a lot differently for the spin. And then obviously when you're ahead of the game like Pakistan were when it comes to the second innings, you can really start to put the foot down, because anything, 200 would have been tough ask on that. So you got to give them credit for their gameplay, especially last night in that situation where they got themselves up to a big lead. So yeah, tough ask for us, but I think the way in which we took the game on today was the only way that we were going to get close if winning.
You and Brendon have been very big on selling Test match cricket and making Test match cricket more watchable. We all think that this week was more watchable than last because it did more. Firstly, do you agree with that? And secondly, as an opposition captain, are you okay with the way we got about it by playing on a used pitch?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those which was always going to favour whoever won the toss. I always call tails, and I won't be saying anything different next week. But, when you come into a test match and you're up against it from the toss, you've got to just put all that out of your head, and you've got to go out there and play the game. I thought until today we were always there. Not only did I see spinners bowl incredibly well, but I thought again, Brydon Cass and Matthew Potts were good. Incredible, actually. A lot going on. Spin, no spin, sometimes no bounce. So, yeah, as a spectator, I'm sure it's better than watching the ball go straight.
The game was in the balance yesterday and 2 catches went down off Brydon Cass. We'll come back to him in just a minute. How crucial was that with the game pretty much sort of in the balance? And I don't think I've seen you, since you've been captain, if I may say, look as frustrated as you did at that point.
Yeah, look, no one means to drop catches.
Absolutely.
But it just proves how important catches are out in these subcontinent conditions, because they don't come along that often. Just on that, I actually apologise to the group up there last night. You're right, it's the first time in my captaincy that I've let my emotions of how I was feeling with the game was unfolding show in my body language. I owned up to that, and I'm very annoyed at myself for letting that out. And it's something that I don't want to do or be seen to be doing. So I apologise to the group about that. And I just I said, oh, it was poor old me coming out. Tired, grumpy old man last night. But yeah, you won't see that happen again.
You must have been very pleased with the way Brendon acquitted himself in these conditions, both Test matches.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. I think he's shown in these 2 games why we picked him in all formats, not just Test cricket going forward. He just keeps charging in ball after ball, spell after spell, and obviously when the ball starts reverse swinging, he comes into the game even more. Having his batting ability down the order again is massive for us, and yeah, he's been really good, and he's he's grown his stock even higher than what it was already.
How are you? How have you pulled up physically? All okay?
Yeah, good. I've worked so hard to get fit for this Test match, but nothing can prepare you for standing out in the field in hot weather. Training doesn't do that. So yeah, great to be able to get through this Test match unscathed, but builds me up nicely into next week, and it was nice to get some overs under the belt as well. That was the one thing which I felt like I was lacking, but obviously when you get onto the game and you feel like it's on the line, nothing can stop me from doing that.
How would you evaluate Shoaib Bashir's performance? We were sort of commenting, and you might disagree, that perhaps that line outside off stump he could perhaps hold a little longer. Is that what you're asking him to do, or is this just part of his development?
I think it's massively part of his development. You know, he's so early on in his career, he's so young, and I thought that the way in which he bowled to the left-handers in particular yesterday was so threatening. And for him, he wants to learn, he wants to get better. He worked so hard with Jeets on improving his game. And again, it's so early on in his career that he's only going to keep getting better and better. And bowling in these conditions and understanding what is sort of, is dangerous is something that he's obviously going to work on and get better at. But he's a fantastic bowler, and I think him and Leachy really complemented each other very well this week.
Appreciate your time coming over. He's got to go. You've got to go to the Prez. Thank you very much
Cheers,
indeed.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. What did you take from what Ben has said there? He was quite honest about how he apologised to the team.
I never apologise to the team for being grumpy and shouting at them. I like that moment, and it was the first time, you put the caveat, since he's been captain, it was the first time a camera has gone on Ben Stokes and he has been animated in that sort of negative, what are we doing here, lads? When the 2 catches went down, a couple of misfields, and he went up and said, that's not me. And sometimes as captain, you wear your heart on your sleeve, you show a bit of passion. A teammate has to understand their captain, and a captain has to understand their teammates. It works both ways. Any team member should be sitting there going, do you know what, Ben, you've had our back for a very long time. You can lose it for a couple of minutes, mate. We probably deserved it.
Just a reminder what somebody said to me actually early on in my time as England captain, that the camera is always on you, and therefore you don't always think of that in the moment. But even, the people will be following the ball and the bowlers and the batters, but they're often on the captain as well, and therefore your body language. And I don't have a problem with yesterday. It was like a natural moment of frustration. But Nasser was on commentary, and as you mentioned there, it was unusual to see that reaction from him.
How'd you get here so quick?
Well, 5 feet 1 inches and a bit of me can be bundled and packaged and transferred very quickly.
Congratulations.
Yeah, fantastic. I think much needed, especially given, like we spoke earlier, in the turmoil, the drama, the drastic way in this they turned around. But what they did was provided that surface which was conducive to the spin and picked 2 spinners who've been consistent performers at the domestic level, and they churned out 20 wickets.
Pakistan cricket goes like that in terms of emotions. Very low and then very high. How high will people get after this fixture?
I think we need to blame this man to my
Good.
right, because he once said 1 minute up, 1 minute down, next minute up, and then he also said a few weeks earlier it's been down all the way through, and I think that's what's concerning. This will massive high in the sense because of the fact, again, the change of personnel in that 11 for players to come through the rank, and selection committee comes in, also provides Shan a little bit of probably comfort in the fact that whatever change happened, whether it was with his consensus or not, it has worked. So I think all in all, this will be a massive high. You don't want to go winless at home. That's been the problem. We've either drawn or lost, and that the losses have been more, and that's been what's concerning for Pakistan. So I think from this, but they need to sort of be more consistent at it and replicate and improve on these performances.
I think the key is not to get too down when you are losing, and that is the problem with Pakistan cricket, is when they do lose, then they change the captain, they change the coach, they change the selectors, they change the chairman, they change the pitches. You know, they started with green tops against Bangladesh. Now we're playing on spinning pitches. And when they win, I don't want everyone to walk out this ground going, right, that's it, we've solved it. That's all our problem solved, because you may not be able to replicate these conditions. So how do we continue the progress of these two spinners that have bowled so beautifully here? How do we reintroduce three very good, if not great, Pakistan cricketers in Babar, Shaheen and Naseem? How do we provide pitches for Naseem and Shaheen? This country has produced some great fast bowlers. So don't just confuse it as someone we're just going to go with spin now, but how do we give them pitches to bowl on? So in the same way you don't get too low when you're losing, don't get too up when you're winning, and try and work out how do we improve from this position.
So what's next? How do you build from this and progress?
I think you provide, like Nas said, consistency not just with the team, throughout the hierarchy from top to bottom, and that's been fundamentally that weighs in on the players. And it's not so much technical with Babar, is it? There has to be a lot more that goes in with that. So I think providing consistency with the selection processes up and down, and then conditions, and then again the brand of cricket that you want to play also needs to be identified. I think what Nasser is very important to maintain a balance, because in Pakistan we can go helter-skelter and it's like we won the World Cup, and I think Shan in this becomes extremely important. Again, very impressed by when he talks about it, his understanding of the game. And I asked him the question at the post-match presentation, how do you continue motivating a group and keep them balanced? So I think he did mention that the group's hungry to do something, and I think that drive with a balanced measure will go a long way.
It's a good sign for domestic cricket, though, isn't it? That lads can come in and do well straight away. I know some of them are experienced, senior, you know, no man's, 38 years old, so he's no youngster. He's been around a long while. But it shows, A, the hunger, as you mentioned on the presentation with Shan, but also the depth. There is depth. There are good players out there. Always have been great players and good players in this country, and they're still out there.
And that's been a concern, because for a while now there have been players on the fringes and the benches which haven't been included in the squads, and if they have been, they've been travelled around, not played. Kamran Ghulam is a massive case in point there, and Shan at the toss did say to me that he was obviously a bit of a heartfelt moment, because he knows the toil of churning out runs. So the three guys you introduced from the domestic setup, who've obviously played for a long time, did produce results. So there is depth, there is quality. It's just about how you string all of it together. So Noman, Sajid, Shahid Afri did use the word emerging talent. I wouldn't call them emerging from the ages that you mentioned. But again, it's picking your best resources that are in form, providing the conditions, and then sort of trying to replicate in a long term, especially at home.
Crystal ball time. Pindi pitch.
Whoa.
What can we expect? What has it been like in the past? And can they do anything with it in a week or less?
Well, it's been the flattest of flat tracks that we can imagine.
We don't want you.
Excellent. Excellent.
They tried to grow a little bit of grass on it in Pindi. It still was very, very flat. And the problem with that was it did not still provide the seam movement that they had hoped for, albeit the Pakistan bowlers did not bowl that well and they didn't use the conditions particularly. But looks like somewhere along the lines, Shan still wants to go back to seaming conditions. I don't know how much it will turn in Pindi, because it hasn't in the recent past.
Well, get yourself up there and get it sorted.
Well, I think they had a few people down there maybe already playing a 3-day game and trying to turn it to spin from effectively whatever day we might be calling it when we get there.
Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
So we are level in this series. Of course, we've had 2 test matches here in Multan. The first one was a record-breaking one for England, certainly with Root and Brook, etc. So England went 1-0 up in that first test match by an innings and 47 runs, but Pakistan have won this one today by 152. And then, of course, as I've mentioned, just been discussing with Urooj, we will head to Rawalpindi. Now, I've got rid of Urooj and Nas, and I welcome in Michael Atherton and Brendon McCullum. Baz, thanks for your time. Can I just ask for your reflections on the last few days here in Multan? Baz, thanks for your time. Can I just ask for your reflections on the last few days here in Multan?
Yeah, obviously a tough few days in terms of result, but I thought, you know, for a lot of that game we did a lot of stuff really well. Obviously the conditions were incredibly extreme, and we knew that heading into this test match with the reused surface. But you know, it would have been lovely to have won the toss. I don't think it was a 100-0 toss. It was a 65-35 toss. But no, credit to Pakistan. I thought they were able to get enough runs on the board in that first innings, and the way their spinners operated as the surface started to deteriorate was simply outstanding. Put us under a lot of pressure, and we weren't quite able to respond. But some stuff to be proud of, and we look forward to the next test.
Just on the pitch, are you comfortable that they reused it?
Yeah, I don't mind it actually. I quite like the quirk of it. I think sometimes, you know, like when you play at home, you should have home advantage. And I guess after that first Test match, we played really well and we were able to go 1-0 up. Something had to give, and they took a punt on it, and fair play. You win the toss, and you're able to play as well as what you were on in those conditions, and you get the results. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it all.
We kind of look at the broader picture sometimes. Your job is to look at the performance of the England team. We look at Test match cricket as a spectacle. Would you agree that when the bowlers are in the game, it's a better spectacle than perhaps what we saw in the first Test match?
Yeah, I look at both. I agree with your point, definitely. I think it's always better when there's the contest between bat and ball. I think historically over here, I've always found that things quicken up late in Test matches. So as turgid as what it is over the first three days in that first Test match, we knew at some stage that the game was going to quicken up. In this Test match, it was quick from the word go. So there was the contest right throughout. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. Same with seaming conditions, right? And you don't want out and out flat wickets. You want the contest where if the bowler's able to, if he bowls well, then he's in the contest, and the batter's under pressure. If they play well, then they get runs.
Specifically with today, are you okay with the method that the batsmen tried to employ on this surface with the runs they had to get?
Yeah, I am, because I think 290 on a ninth-day surface against spinners who know how to bowl in these conditions, it was always going to be a difficult proposition. Save for someone coming out of the telephone box, we're going to have to sort of combine pretty well as a group. And thought the method of sweeping and reverse sweeping and trying to put some pressure on the opposition was really the only way. If we could get the scoreboard ticking over, rattling over a little bit quicker than Pakistan were comfortable with, and we found ourselves a little closer to the target than what they hoped to be, then we kind of anticipated some pressure might come on, but we weren't able to get there, and we lost a few wickets trying that method. But I think we saw right throughout the Test match, if you tried to sit in against the spin, then it was nigh on impossible. So it was a bet worth taking. It didn't quite pay off.
You mentioned sweeping and reverse sweeping. Ollie Pope got sucked into a drive again, and it was noticeable last night that he wanted to sweep and reverse sweep when Sajid held that line outside off stump. When he got out today, he almost put his hand to his head as if to say, what have I done? That didn't seem to be part of the plan, that shot.
Yeah, I think Popey felt that the ball was a little bit closer to him, which is a great skill in itself from spin bowlers, is to be able to get the ball to drop. Half volley and achievable, and then for it to drop on you at the last moment with a bit of bite and a bit of spin and coming off the crack. So, but that's the beauty of playing in these conditions, right? What is normal on most given days becomes abnormal in these conditions, and you end up making mistakes because of it. But look, I think it's great bowling. I think Popey's method last night was excellent. I thought he started beautifully. And sure, a big score's not far away.
Your captain admitted he had to apologise for the team for an air of frustration yesterday. Did you have to gently admonish him as he came off yesterday, or did it come off his own back? Because I've never seen Ben that frustrated since he's taken this role on.
Yeah, look, I was sort of a bit surprised actually, but we all know how passionate Ben is, right, and how much it means to him to play for England, and we've seen that through his bloody mindedness to get back from the injury, which was significant, and to do so in a 9-week time frame, and to have his first Test match in extreme conditions of 40 degrees, and to be able to give what he gave to the side. And look, he's going to benefit from the run, no doubt. The natural rhythm of the game, and especially in such extreme conditions, can sometimes be hard to be able to balance out, and I think maybe that's where some of that frustration led to. It certainly wasn't directed at any of the players. It was more at trying to assess the rhythm of the game and to try and make some of those decisions and impact on it. But look, he'll be better for the run, and I thought in the second innings he looked like he had that method where he wanted to try and control the game and put pressure on the opposition. He's at his best when he's doing that.
You mentioned the extreme conditions. As a former keeper, just give us some kind of assessment of Jamie Smith, who in the round has kept pretty well. He probably had his least good game as an England cricketer after an outstanding start to his Test match career, because that was a crucial catch yesterday and shorter runs in both innings. Yeah,
I feel slightly differently, to be honest, Ath. I think you will not get a tougher set of conditions to keep wicket on, and I thought, the catch aside, and obviously Jamie's very disappointed about dropping that catch, but you take that out, I thought his keeping was as good as I've seen in these conditions, particularly for a foreign wicket keeper, let alone for a local wicket keeper, let alone a foreign wicket keeper. So, I think he's just continuing to impress, and obviously in both innings he's trying to put pressure on the opposition on the surface, which is very difficult, and that's his natural game. And you know, he's turning into a really big player for us, and I've been super impressed with his wicket keeping.
As a former keeper, you'd understand that's the challenge, isn't it? It's a bit like a football goalkeeper. You can have a brilliant 90 minutes, you let one through your legs, that's what you're remembered for. And that is part of the challenge, actually, of being a keeper at this level.
Yeah, it is, and that's where you've got to have the ability to turn the page pretty quickly as well, because if you ever let their mistakes sort of dictate your attitude and your confidence, then gee, you're in for a hell of a time. So you just got to keep turning the page, focus on the things that you've done really well, and know that mistakes in this game are going to be part of it. But for the best part, 99% of what Jamie has done in this Test match has been absolutely outstanding, and that'll be the message to him.
From the bowling point of view, what have you taken from the last few days?
I thought we bowled quite well, actually. I thought Shoaib Bashir was very good. He was obviously incredibly threatening, especially against the left-handers, and the surface probably suited him a little bit more. I thought obviously Jack Leach has come back into the side really well and bowled really nicely. For me, obviously Matthew Potts, we know how big a heart he's got, and the fact he's going to keep charging in. The standout for me has been Brendon. So, I think I wouldn't say he surprised me, because he came with the reputation of someone that could bowl good pace and had a big heart, and he'd keep charging in, and he got some steepling bounce. But to be able to do it in England is one thing. To be able to come to these conditions, 40-degree heat, and do it on a surface which didn't offer a whole lot for fast bowlers is simply outstanding. So, we're trying to build a battery of fast bowlers, and Brendon has certainly put his name into that.
We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Lance.